The most anabolic hormone you have in your body, the hormone that can actually cause muscles to grow the fastest, is actually not testosterone, it's insulin. However, insulin can also make you gain body fat. If you do this one thing in the morning, you'll maximize your insulin for muscle building and minimize the fat storage capacity. But you got to do it.
Is that true?
That's true.
Insulin is more of a anabolic hormone than testosterone?
Technically, it's the most anabolic hormone. You can argue one way or another, but it's now it's anabolic in the sense that it builds tissue. It stores glycogen. It can definitely build muscle. It could definitely make body fat. Help you gain body fat.
Is anabolic.
Yeah,
that's right.
And bodybuilders, when they started to use, when you look at the difference between bodybuilders in the 80s and 90s. It was a huge difference.
Monstrously bigger.
Yeah.
So I've always it was
insulin.
I've always wondered what is happening from a mechanistic level. Like, is that insulin causing more of those calories to so like, okay, I'm a bodybuilder and I've been training for a long time consistently. I'm kind of peak muscle. Talking to another bodybuilder guy, and he's like, "Bro, have you fucked with insulin yet?" No, I haven't. So I try it. And nothing else changes. I eat the same. I do everything the same. I start taking insulin. What is happening that now all of a sudden allows me to blow up 20 more pounds of muscle?
It is. First of all, don't.
No, I know. It's dangerous as shit.
It's the most dangerous hormone to mess with. Growth hormone, testosterone, But
this was popular in the bodybuilding world.
Very popular. And this is largely why the 90s, you had these bodybuilders who suddenly became massive.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that they took more anabolics, it was the insulin that they took. Because they took growth hormone in the 80s, early 90s as well. It was the insulin. So what it'll do, it'll shuttle glycogen and amino acids into your muscles at ridiculous rates. And so what bodybuilders do, and I'm not super privy to this, I never did any of this stuff. And I never coached bodybuilders on how to take hormones. It was just something I was interested in. They would take it pre-workout, post-workout with carbohydrates, and they'd get, they would talk about getting crazy pumps and how they pack on all this muscle type of deal. And, we know that insulin resistance leads to fat storage and sarcopenia. Insulin resistance also leads to muscle loss. This is why diabetics typically, or even pre-diabetes typically results in some muscle loss, and why obesity can also result in muscle loss. It's because of the insulin resistance. Keeping your body insulin sensitive is very pro-muscle and very good for fat loss or to keep you lean. And there are lots of things we can do that can affect how sensitive we are to insulin. Strength training, obviously, one of the best things you could do for insulin sensitivity. Building muscle, muscle is very insulin sensitive, so when you have more of it, or it's healthier and stronger, it's going to react to insulin in a good way. So whatever insulin you produce, you're just more sensitive to it. But in activity also, walking or moving after you eat. So when that sugar goes in your blood, if you move, that really does affect insulin sensitivity.
How do the diabetic bodybuilder guys manipulate this?
They take insulin.
They're already. I know, that's my point.
Yeah.
So are they taking a little bit more than what they're recommended for health? Is that
probably?
Because I know
that's a good question.
I know there's guys. That's how I first really started to find out about it. Was there was guys that had to take it because they were diabetic, and then they used it in a way. And I don't know if they take a lower dose or they take it more frequently.
No,
they take a higher. More. They take a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to wrap my brain around exactly how it would. If I'm eating. So let's say for me, I need to eat 4,000 calories to be in a calorie surplus to build muscle. Does it theoretically mean that if I'm taking synthetic insulin, that instead of me having to push all the way to 4,000 to store some of that and build muscle, maybe I only need to eat 3,000 or 3,500, so the additional calories get partitioned over to building muscle because of the insulin?
Theoretically, I do know that.
I know that's probably not the best scientific way to explain it. That's the way I understand it.
I'm not quite sure. And again, I wouldn't mess with insulin because.
Well, no, it's extremely dangerous.
Oh, very dangerous.
I'm not fucking recommending this at all.
No, but you put yourself in a diabetic.
But I've always wondered what, because I know guys
what they'll do is they'll take it
and they all of a sudden 30 pounds.
Yep.
Yeah, like crazy.
Yeah, they'll take it and then they'll eat a ton of carbohydrates and food.
I heard the term insulin growth factor, right? What is it like? Where's that? Like, where'd that come from?
Insulin-like growth factor, IGF-1.
Yeah,
you mean that is different? That's elevated from growth hormone.
Okay.
That also has anabolic of fat burning effects, and there's a synergistic effect, right? I know we're going down this rabbit hole, but bodybuilders have really mastered the use of all the hormones and when to use them, and then their synergistic effect, right? So I think if you're not on steroids and you take insulin, you're not going to build muscle from it. But because they're on steroids, because they're on growth hormone, then they throw the insulin, you get this synergistic insane effect. Nonetheless, insulin it can be an anabolic hormone, but you want your body to be sensitive to it. And I mentioned two things, right? Lift weights and then move after you eat. And then here's the other one: eat a high protein breakfast. Start your day off with a high protein meal. That actually improves insulin sensitivity all day, regardless of what you do for the rest of the day.
Levels it out.
So and we know this with CGM data. So now that CGMs are available to the average person, lots of people now use them. It's not just diabetics. Now the average, lots of everyday people will use a CGM just to monitor their blood sugar, to see how food affects them, and to.
You know what the worst food is?
What?
The absolute worst. It's been tested.
Is it pineapple?
Nope.
What?
The single worst thing that you could
for
do.
Insulin for sugar spike?
Yeah.
What?
Skittles.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Really?
It's the worst.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I was actually just watching someone break down with the CGMs, and like they tested all these different foods, and they found that Skittles has the worst response.
What kind of sugar is it?
I don't know.
It's not just sugar. There's a couple other factors, but sugar is a big one. But there's an individual variance too.
Well, of course there still is. But this was obviously a test over hundreds of people.
Oh, really?
All kinds of foods.
Wow.
So of all the ones, of course, there's always an individual variance. Like there was probably somebody who could eat Skittles and it's like a banana or something to them. But that was the one out of everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
By the way, this is why the meathead, fitness influencer idiots will tell, and I call them idiots because this is a minimal effect, but they'll tell people to eat candy post-workout to spike your insulin, to make yourself more anabolic. That's not going to make that big of a difference. And again, you want insulin sensitivity. You're not trying to get your insulin to go through the roof.
And the people that think that they see a difference, it's probably because you're getting an extra 300 calories. It's really easy to eat.
That's right. Yeah. So, but a high protein breakfast, if you start your day off with protein, the rest of the day, what you see with the CGM data are smaller spikes and drops in insulin. So even if you have two groups of people eating exactly the same later in the day, but one group starts with 30, 40, 50 grams of protein, the other group doesn't, you'll see a difference the rest of the day. High protein, starting out high protein.
Are there other benefits, Sal, to what that high protein's paired with too? Like for example, Creatures of Habit, they've got they've got stuff where they've got nuts and oats, and then you also have the 30 grams of protein. So is that just taking 30 grams by itself of protein, or is it the combination that also has benefits?
Protein is the factor that makes the biggest impact, but when you combine it with some fats, then it's even better.
Right.
And then carbohydrates are fine if you have those. Actually, you brought up Creatures of Habit. That's one of the best fast, quote unquote, healthy processed foods, right? Because it's in a bag, so you could just pour water in it and it's ready to go. It's one of the best ones that I've seen. I can't think of too many other quick breakfast meals that don't require
simple that you can just put together real quick.
Yeah, because it's 30 grams of protein for a packet, right? And if you do two of them, that's 60.
And minimal calories. I basically toggle back and forth between that and the Greek yogurt right now. That's kind of I'm trying to get tighter on my calories, and the bacon, sourdough, toasted butter, and everything from eating out is one of the easiest places for me to shave. And one of the best things to do that is to switch over to Creatures of Habit or my Greek yogurt for breakfast. That's an easy.
Yeah, but if you just did three things, you would see significant improvements in your insulin sensitivity. Lifted some weights. If you moved for 5 to 10 minutes after you ate each meal, just get up and walk, and then start your day off with high protein, you would see nice improvements in your blood sugar and how your body reacts to the insulin that you already produce. That's the key, right? The key isn't, and again, I'll go back to those fitness, meatheads that I talk about where they're like, spike your insulin. You don't want to spike your insulin. You want whatever insulin you're producing to be more effective. Mm-hmm. So I'm not trying to double my insulin production. I'm trying to double the effectiveness of the insulin that I already produce. We want insulin sensitivity. We don't want more insulin necessarily. And that's what'll help you with fat loss, muscle gain, athletic performance, all that stuff. And it's very closely connected to metabolic health. When you look at a lot of the chronic health issues that we suffer from, all of them, right? Cancer, diabetes, in women, things like PCOS, there's a close connection between those and insulin resistance. And improving insulin sensitivity is a great way to prevent or at least reduce your risk of some of those chronic health issues. And this is why you got the biohackers. Now, they focus almost entirely on this. I don't think this is the only answer, but the biohackers do. There is some truth in what they say when they talk about, managing insulin sensitivity. Like, they go nuts on this.
Well, there's also, we're not really talking about this, but the behavioral aspect that's attached to it too. I mean, when you spike like the insulin, and then you have that crash like that. You feel tired. You crave bad food. And so one of the things that I remember when we were wearing the glucose monitors, and when I was like trying to manage that, like it's crazy how much easier it was for me to make good choices.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so there's that aspect of it, because I know there's also the other side in the fitness community that will shit all over those things, like, oh, it just, as long as it's calories in versus calories out, and we go back to that like argument all the time. But it's like there's more to this for the average person who's trying to make better food choices, that if you do understand and you learn how these different foods spike your blood sugar like that, and then how that affects your cravings, your behaviors, your mood, your energy. There's a lot to unpack for the individual there, to give them insight on, wow, okay, look if I make these choices, it makes it a lot easier for me to continue making healthy choices. If I allow myself, even if it fits in my macros and my calories, to have this one food that I love to have, what I'm not realizing is the downstream effects that come with that.
Managing your cravings is one of the best ways to be able to be consistent with eating healthy. Is managing your behaviors and your cravings.
100%.
Period. End of story. Otherwise, you're going to be playing a game of, I have these cravings, I have these urges, and I just have to fight it all the time. Good luck.
This is why I've never liked the cheat meal, cheat day strategy that the bodybuilding community promotes, and that I think it's bled into the general population, right? And understandably, like, as a competitor, when you track every single thing, you weigh everything, then they can easily kind of manage that. Like, oh, one day I'm going to eat off the radar, and then I can white knuckle it and get right back to my tilapia and asparagus the rest of the week.
Yeah.
So, okay, that works for you. But the general population,
terrible.
Yeah, allowing them, just as they start to discipline themselves to eat balanced, probably level their blood sugar out, do all these great things by eating whole foods, then all of a sudden they go, oh, and I can't wait for cheat Saturday. You know what I'm saying? And then they go bananas.
You know what that reminds me of? What was that movie? There was that movie where, like, once a year you could, like, commit any crime, kill people.
Oh, The Purge.
The Purge. Yeah. Literally, cheat meals is like it's the diet version of the Purge. Like, if we just kill everybody once a year, we'll get it out of our system.
The rest of you can stay inside.
Yeah, there'll be no crime the rest of the year because we'll just get it out of our system.
Was that the premise of the movie? I never watched it.
It was one day a year.
No, of course I never watched it.
The whole premise was that once a year,
everything is legal.
Everything's legal. You murder everything.
Yeah.
And that keeps everybody cool the rest of the year because they look forward to the splits a year.
Yeah.
You can kill your neighbor that you hate or whatever.
Is that really what?
Dude.
Such a weird premise.
Who thinks it was stupid?
So dumb, dude.
It
was so.
That was the first like horror movie I think Ethan watched.
Was it?
Yeah. And it's I don't know.
As if human behavior works like that.
Yeah.
That's not how human behavior works. The way human behavior works is typically the more you indulge in, I don't know how to label it, bad behavior or whatever, the more you tend to want to do it.
Yeah.
So it's not like, hey, if I go get smashed once a week, then I'll never want to drink alcohol.
I mean, you'll
probably want it more now.
I don't know how many times I've been on this roller coaster myself, right? Where and I'm always trying to remind myself of like how I feel right now. When I've been so consistent with the whole foods and dieting, and I haven't had ice cream, I haven't had those things that I like. I know that I like. It ain't hard right now. It's not. It's
exactly.
It gets hard when I go, you know what? I've earned it. I haven't done this in so long, and then I go indulge and I enjoy myself because I've earned it. And then now that creeps back, and now I'm thinking about it, and now I'm like, well, a little bit more is not so bad. And then you start, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, now it's back in my life.
Let it in.
And so I'm always trying to remind myself that I don't, like right now, I don't feel deprived of those things.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. Look, we have a free guide. It's the benefits of eating whole foods. This gives you a shopping list, what foods are best for proteins, fats, carbohydrates. There's recipe samples. It's all based on real, whole, natural foods, and it's a free guide. It's totally free. You can get it if you go to wholefoodsguide.com or by clicking on the link in the description below. By the way, the reason why we communicate to people balance and how, if you go out and you enjoy a pizza, it's not that big of a deal, because there's another side to human behavior that's also very important that we observed as trainers, but it's just true, which is when you tell yourself you can't, and everybody tells you can't, you tend to want to even more.
We're rebellious by nature.
We are. So it's not that you can't go do these things. Like you can, and there's balance baked into it. And sometimes it is healthy to eat pizza. Maybe not physically healthy, but you're connecting with your friends, you're enjoying yourself. Like that's also healthy. So if you kind of have that mentality, but then what tends to happen is what Adam said, is you start to lead a healthier life. And then you start to want to continue doing that. And then it becomes less desirable.
It does.
I don't really, it's not that big of a deal and then instead of saying I can't have pizza, I actually don't want it. Right now.
The secret sauce for the listener that's doing like that, I mean, getting my clients to connect to all the other things, like for me, like if I'm coaching myself, I'm reminding myself like, man, imagine how good your gut has felt. How long has it been since you've had a normal stool, and how has your sleep been, and how is your energy, and have you felt bloated and lethargic, and all these things that I haven't had because I've been eating dialed in, right? And so if you can attach the way eating like that makes you feel and all the other positive things besides just the hedonistic taste of it and the value of that, it's easier to sustain, it's easier to maintain. But when the way you look at food always is purely in that window
what makes me fat or not.
or what tastes good or doesn't taste good. I'm saying like it's like that's how a lot of people frame food, and they frame it as like you not eating those foods, it's oh my god, how could I ever miss out on Jack in the Box and Taco Bell? And you don't realize like your palate is completely changed over to you won't even, if you go away from that for long enough, you won't even want that type of stuff.
And this happens with all what you would be considered logically healthy, good behaviors, including exercise. Like you get to a point where not moving just doesn't feel good. And you'd rather move. You'd rather not skip your workout. You'd rather go, and you adjust the intensity because you're not always going to work out hard. But that's the place that I always sought to get my clients was how could I get them? Actually, I don't want to say always. At the beginning of my career, my goal was just to get them to whatever their goal was.
Feel what optimal feels like first.
And then, but later it was like, can I get this person to want to do this for the rest of their life? And if I can do that, I've succeeded. Because when you do that, when you're able to get to that place, this becomes now a part of your life, and it's not something that you stop. Because that's the real challenge. The real challenge is it's not the weight loss, it's how do I keep it off? Because everybody loses weight, nobody keeps it off. That's where everybody screws up. Is how do we keep it consistent? And the consistency comes from wanting to do it. So that's the thing you need to focus on.
Yeah.
I get real pumped. I'm real pumped right now because we just did our webinar with our trainers. We're teaching them stuff, and man, I tell you what, that is one of the funnest things that we do.
Yeah,
Is
I
talking to
wish you
trainers.
guys wouldn't always try and sell my naked pictures every time.
It works though. Everybody,
Because we always get a few extra sales for
I
that.
guess whatever it's going to take to get
we
the
don't have
sales
naked
going.
pictures of Justin. We're about to get DMs from people. What? I want to get some of those. No, we don't have.
Yeah, no, it was great. You guys really. I thought it was one of your better ones for sure.
It was good. It's a good time, man.
It's
I love
the
talking to trainers.
closest thing to what it would have been like to run the gyms with each other.
Yeah.
Like when you think about everything that this business encompasses, that part of it is the closest, or at least personally, that's how I feel, is the closest to mirroring what it would have been like for us to run a gym together, right? So because we're working with trainers, which is what a big part of the job when you're running a gym is most of the gyms that we ran were,
That's the lifeblood of the gym. Is
15, 20 trainers were inside there. And so communicating, client retention and sales and communication and forecasting and all this stuff that we used to talk about. And so we've never really experienced that together because even though we work for the same company, we never worked together.
Yeah.
So I think that part is the part that I think that
it's also just, I love trainers. I really do. I know what motivates them to do what they do. They really do care. And of all the people in the fitness industry, you look at the whole industry, there's a lot of people that make that industry work. But nobody impacts people more positively in a real way like trainers. Nobody. We still don't. Even though we have this podcast, we reach millions of people. I remember what it's like training people and working with them, and that impact is when you do a good job, you change somebody's life in really fundamental ways. And so I love it. What we communicated, in fact, it's probably good to communicate on the show too, is one of the topics was for the trainers is how to get through the holiday season with their clients. Very tough. The fitness industry suffers during the holiday season. People don't go to the gym. Yeah. It's hard to keep people consistent.
Kind of account for it. Like this half of the year is going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, and so, but there were strategies that we figured out towards the end of the year that really helped. And I think that the average person would benefit from hearing these. One of the main things we talked about was, a lot of people go into the holiday trying to think to themselves like, how do I not eat too much? How do I, lose weight? How do I not gain weight? And what we figured out was, why don't we go with it? Why don't we go with what tends to happen in the holidays? And what a perfect time to reverse diet. What a perfect time to focus on building strength. And that's what I started to do with my clients towards the end of the year. It was like, hey, by the way, Thanksgiving's coming up, then Christmas. Rather than putting you in a cut, we're going to reverse diet. We're going to build muscle, build strength. We're going to go with this since you're going to be out enjoying yourself anyway. Get those calories turned into muscle, and then start January. Then we'll start the cut. And it's funny that a lot of those trainers hadn't heard that before.
Yeah. I think the other mistake that I made early on in my career was overcommitting clients to a plan during the holidays too. I thought that's what they wanted. I thought that was a smart strategy to be like, okay, let's map out
rigid
all these
lines everywhere.
Yeah, all these things that I wanted them to do. And what I realized was a very, very small percentage of them would ever execute that to a T. In fact, most people, what would happen is not only would they not be able to follow through on our plan through the holidays, but then what would end up happening was because they didn't, they got discouraged and then they would spiral out of control. Yep. And so I quickly realized that, okay, that's not the smartest strategy. Maybe if I set the bar low and give them like minimal expectations that they feel like, oh yeah, I could easily do that. You mean you tell me all I got to do is go in 3 different times in the week and just squat 5 times or deadlift or do like, I could commit to that. That's like 15, 20 minutes. Like, yeah. If
and then they don't feel like they failed.
Yes. And then I always had stuff like, hey, and we could also do these other things, but let's just agree that we're going to hit those protein targets first before you enjoy dessert or anything else. So to make that a non-negotiable that, hey, I got to make sure I hit my protein. So do that. And then, hey, let's agree that in the week, even when you got family come, this and that you get away for 3 different times and you just go get 5 sets of squats, 5 sets of deadlifts, and just agree to that. And that right there in itself was like, it would mitigate so much of the damage that a lot of these clients would do. And it also set them up for success. Because what happens sometimes is those clients would do, they're like, hey man, I know you said, I only had to do this, but could I do this? Or is it okay if I do that? Yeah, Go ahead. But I always wanted to set that bar low so that and then also too, that they understood the value of the holidays, which I think you communicate really well, Sal, is just that, there's only so many times a year that you get to see that aunt, or it's only so many times a year where the entire family, gets together for a weekend or whatever like that or even just a dinner. And so, is it really that important that that's the day you're measuring and weighing food and you're restricting yourself from the drink that your famous cousin or sister makes that everybody loves? Like, no, man, that's not going to make you fat, and that's not going to make you lose 20 pounds.
We forget that relational health is part of health. In fact, I just read an article on the loneliness epidemic that we're going through right now. There's lots of data talking about how feelings of loneliness have been growing now for the last decade, and they're reaching levels that we haven't seen before. And loneliness is strongly connected, correlated to poor health. It's actually connected to heart disease, connected to cancer. It's connected to mental health issues like anxiety and depression. Humans are social creatures, and when they are lonely, we just don't thrive. We don't do well. And I read this whole article on it, and the group with the worst, I'll pull it up for you. The age group with the worst ratings for loneliness, I believe was like 30 to 45.
30 to 45 single women, right?
They didn't go with men and women, but I've read that. Yes.
I've read that.
Yeah. Older men are really bad too, once they get past a certain age.
Yeah.
All right, here it is.
Yeah, we don't make friends.
People between 30 to,
No new friends.
People between 30 to 44 of age were the loneliest. 29%, almost, 3 out of 10 people were frequently or always lonely. Not sometimes, frequently or always. Among 18 to 29-year-olds, here's what's crazy. 18 to 29-year-olds were never lonely forever. Like when we would do data on this, kids, teenagers, they weren't lonely. They were out hanging out with their friends or whatever. Yeah. 24%, one out of 4 people in that age group are considered lonely. And they asked these people what were the main reasons why they were lonely. You guys want to guess? Like the reasons they thought that things that got in the way.
World issues?
No. I mean, this makes sense when I say it. Technology.
Oh, they actually knew. They had the awareness to blame it on technology.
I thought they wouldn't have admitted that.
Yes. Technology, and then no spiritual or religious life was the next one. So I know why I think technology makes people so lonely. Meeting people is scary, takes a little work, creates a little anxiety. All of us have a little bit of anxiety, social anxiety.
Yeah, it's a crutch.
And it makes it easy to not see people.
It's a crutch. You don't have to. It's a crutch. You do not have to go through the awkward feeling. I mean, I can actually. I don't know if you guys can recall back to. I can recall back to calling somebody on the phone and wanting to hang out or spend the night the first time, and actually being nervous and dude. What do I say? What do I do? I even remember asking my mom, like, could you call his mom? Like, no, you have to do it. You call him, and I go, so I remember that. Yeah. I remember that as a kid.
Like talking to your friend's mom or something.
Yeah. I remember that feeling, but and of course at that age, you don't realize the importance of that skill and being able to do that. And social media has now bypassed that. You can shoot an email, a text message. You can go in their DMs real quick or send them it's
friend request and see if it goes through or not, or just move on.
I'll never forget when Enzo worked for us.
That's what makes me think
God, it's been how many years since Enzo's been here?
6?
Something like that.
Yeah. 6 or more years. Enzo, shout out to Enzo. Great kid, great man now, right? So he's in his 20s now.
Yeah, he's doing big things.
We had him when he was a teenager working as an intern for us. And I remember this was a lot when I was talking about Irresistible, and a lot of that stuff was conversation. The guys were teasing me all the time about bringing that book up. And the talk around technology, I think, was just starting to really happen. And I remember asking him, what it was like, do you guys have high school parties and stuff like that? I mean, do kids still get together? And he goes, oh yeah, occasionally they do that. And I'm like, well, then how do you meet a girl? Like if you see a girl at the party, and he broke it down, and it was, if you saw a girl across the way in a party, you look her up on Facebook, and then you friend request her, and then you'll see her phone go off, and she'll grab her phone, and she'll either accept it or deny it. And if she accepts it, then you can say, hey, what's up? On there, and then if she responds to that, then you go over and you go talk to her. God, and I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. I'm that is the process before you go. Well, you wouldn't just walk over and say, hi, I'm Enzo.
It used to be just eye contact, and you're like, oh wait, she look at me,
and you got to do the scary thing.
And I think what's interesting is I would not put him in a socially awkward.
No,
he's
he's outgoing kid.
Very charismatic, very intelligent, very well spoken.
He's more outgoing than most people.
Yeah.
And yet he did that.
Exactly. And so that has just become the norm and a part of the culture, so that even your kids that have that natural gift that they could do it if they needed to, they still don't. And then you take the kids that need that step to develop that muscle and that skill, just as it's lost.
You could take it. There's so many different layers to this. One layer is I don't have to leave my house to eat, to buy anything, to do anything. I could stay home.
You'd be a sloth.
I could stay home, have anything delivered to my door. I don't need to ever go anywhere. So you're not even getting the social interaction of going to the grocery store, which is just down the street, or going to get something to eat or whatever. Yeah. You Amazon it, DoorDash it, order it. And then another layer. I have all the entertainment I could possibly. There's more entertainment than I could possibly consume. Mm-hmm. So I'm never so bored that I have to go outside. When we were kids, oftentimes you left your house because there was nothing. What am I going to do? There's nothing to do. So let me just.
So the hardest part, Sal, has to be this, because you just listed 3 different things, and all 3 of those things are awesome. So it's how do you balance something that technology has evolved and made awesome convenient.
You have to.
And so that's what makes this so difficult is all three of those things on its face value are not evil, bad, ugly, awful things. They're all, wow, convenient, nice to have, awesome in a pinch, like all social media. This business doesn't exist if it wasn't for social media. Like, so it has all these amazing things, yet it has this other side to it. And so
I think it's no different than needing to structure and schedule activity these days because you don't move otherwise. Like it used to be that you were just active because your life
job
required it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, now we have to have gyms.
And so we've made life so easy physically that, you know, people don't hurt their backs lifting heavy things anymore or working and breaking their, you know, they don't exhaust themselves physically at work like they used to. That's not a bad thing. But now we have to schedule activity, otherwise we don't move.
Right.
So it's like you almost have to like make yourself. You got to get up and go. And then some things you should probably avoid completely. Like, especially if you're a young man, pornography is a motivation zapper. It will crush your motivation because a lot of the motivation that young men have comes from sexual drive. And if you're placating it with pornography, well, why do I need to get up and go talk to anybody? I'm not take that risk by going and getting rejected when I just, you know, I got rid of that urge real quick because I'm on the internet. Like, again, you're a teenage boy. When we were growing up, you want to talk to, like, you got to go talk to a real person. You don't have the opportunity to go on your phone.
This is all related to the conversation I had with Everett last night, and he was just very curious about, like, you know, when I had my first girlfriend, like how I asked her out, like, you know, all the sort of steps preceding that. And because he's like in this new school now and he's like trying to kind of fit in. And like, of course, this also relates to like me trying to my best to keep him off of a phone. And he's trying to fight for and advocate for the fact that he needs it in order to like contact these people, or like he's like talking to a girl and like they give him his number. And he's like, I can't call him on my iPad, Dad, you know? And I'm like, ooh, yeah, that's kind of awkward. But he's just like, he's like, the thing that I've been doing is like, I hung out with my friend and they have a girlfriend. And so he got brought into this like group of other girls. And so now he's like hanging out with this group. And he's like, I'm just trying to be like chill and nice, Dad. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's all you got to do. And he's like, now they're kind of paying attention, but it's like, I don't know, you know, how to, you know, progress this, or like, cause his older brother has a girlfriend. He just sees like a lot of kids now are kind of like connecting and hooking up. And so it was just kind of funny taking him through that. And I had to like kind of tell him like, you know, okay, so in 4th grade was when, you know, I asked this girl's friend if she liked me, and then, you know, she kind of relayed that back, and then all of a sudden now we're going around, you know, and it was the same for him. He's like, oh yeah, around 4th grade. But it was like the same steps. It was like almost like parallel. It's so funny because like I told him when I was in 6th grade, like I had my first kiss, like, and it was like on a dare, you know, and it was in front of class, and the teacher came out and basically saw it and told the girl's mom, and then they broke us up right away, you know, next day, and so anyway, he got a kick out of that.
What grade were you in when you kissed the girl?
What's that?
What grade were you in?
I was in 6th grade.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I forget how young, you know, this stuff
That's
starts.
young, because like that's his age, and
It
it's
is.
like I can't, and I forgot that, and then it brought me back to that, and I'm like, oh wow, that's where he's at right now, and he's like going through puberty, and he's like asking me questions about all that, and so it's just kind of funny to kind of recount that, and then I'm like, well, I had my first serious girlfriend, I think, you know, in 9th grade, like I'm like, so you're doing just fine. You know, like it's all going to kind of progress.
That's so cute.
Yeah, just stay chill.
Do they write notes to each other still, kids? Do they still write letters?
I don't know. I mean,
That was
text.
Do you remember that?
That was everything.
Remember, you'd write a letter and
That's
then
how
you
you
fold
asked
it in a
That's how
funny
you
way.
asked a girl out back then. Yes or no? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
It's all
you use little
messages
boxes.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I like you.
Hey,
Like-
did you ever do the boxes where it's like, you know, do you like me? And it's
Yes,
like one box yes, one box no, and then there
Yeah,
was
you
always a
did
maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Okay,
1,
so
2,
you're
3,
saying
4.
that's where you're saying there's a chance. That's where that comes from, dude. Every that's why that
Oh
that
yeah, what
resonates
was
with
that
everybody.
one with the 4?
Yeah, it's like
what's that called?
Cootie catcher.
No, is it
that what
cootie
it's
catcher?
called?
Yeah, it's a cootie catcher.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, it's called a
that's
cootie
right.
catcher.
I just remember doing
Pick a
it.
number. You know?
Yeah.
I did one.
I remember asking girls out when I was in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, and taking jewelry from my mom's jewelry box. So I'd send a letter, then like a necklace in there. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
That's
I
gangster.
even remember breaking up with a girl and she like returned the necklace. You know what I'm saying?
my
She's like,
God.
here you go. You can have your necklace back.
Girls like drools.
I told him about breaking up with this girl because she made my cereal soggy when I was talking to her.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling us that story.
Like the dumbest shit ever. I
You
was
were
getting
eating-
annoyed. Like what?
You were eating cereal.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I gotta
she kept it on the phone.
go. And she's like, no. And she's trying to tell me this story. And I'm just like, I don't think it's gonna work out.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. Look, I have a free guide that teaches you how to lose fat in 3 steps, just 3 steps that will burn the most amount of body fat and help keep it off. This guide is totally free. We're giving it to everybody right now. If you want it, click on the link at the top of the description below. All right, back to the show.
Before high school, you break up with any girl
in your
that
20s?
disrupts your relationship with your boys. You know what I'm saying? That's like you can't. I remember before high school, it was everything revolved around your buddies, and then it was just that 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. It's like people are starting to hook up and get boyfriends, girlfriends, but even then, it's still like just cool to say you have them, but you don't really hang out with them. You still hang out with your buddies. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, oh, that's my girlfriend over there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're not really like diving in.
Yeah,
Come
you're
in.
not hanging. And then in high school, you're like all inseparable. You're holding hands all over between classes and shit, and then
Like, well, I guess I
cupcaking
gotta
everywhere.
go hang out with her. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember like I think
See
it
you
might have-
later.
it might have been my sophomore year, and it's like sophomore. I'd been working out all the way up until, but you couldn't tell until I was a sophomore. Then you can kind of see a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I wore a wife beater just like as a shirt, like it was hot. So
To school?
yeah, dude. Like I took my shirt off.
Of course you did.
Just walking around, right? Walking around. And I remember like a girl made a comment. She's like, she's like, you got muscles. And I was like, wow.
No, that's the best feeling.
Are you kidding me?
That was-
right now?
I mean,
That's
I
why
had
that's
that
how it became the
basketball
uniform.
jersey.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it became the uniform.
That's
right
it,
there.
bro. That was it.
imprint. Just
Officially uniform.
That's not how it became a uniform. Bro. It was put on me when I was a baby, dude. That's like my. By the way, my wife buys them
That's funny.
for my little ones. You know
Oh,
that?
God,
Even my
bro.
little daughter.
Break
my little
the cycle,
2-year-old wears
dog.
it.
Break the cycle.
Hey, I got home the other day.
generational.
They're so cute. When I come home, they wait for me, and then they hear me coming in, and we have a long hallway from the garage to the kitchen is, and I'll see both of them just run towards me, all excited, and I see my daughter, my 2-year-old daughter, and she's wearing a wife beater, dude. And she looks like a little Guido boy walking to me. Ah! I'm like, what are you wearing? I was like, oh, I got her some too. Like,
So good. So good.
so good.
You know,
It's
we
such a
were
good
talking
time.
about technology and its bad things, this and that. I have something that's really interesting that I think is good, right? So I saw the statistic on surgeons that play video games. Have you seen this stat before?
Yeah, I've read this.
Bro.
The best, the
best
surgeons
surgeons
who
in the
play
world.
the best, who play the most video games are the best surgeons.
Yeah, 20. In fact, they have stuff that shows 26% more accurate and better.
Yeah.
I mean, is that just, related obviously to focus and
Yes.
dexterity?
Yes.
High-
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of, now, like, I mean,
High
I
risk.
bet they're a blast. To
well,
hang
you
out
remember
with.
our
They're either doing surgery or playing video games.
Shut up.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember when we first met Dr. Khan? Like that's
yeah.
that's what he's he was world class Halo player.
That's right.
I guess Elon's like one of the top Diablo players.
Yes, I heard that too.
So
And,
do you know what it is so some of these really high tech advanced surgeries involve you using like a machine
exactly right.
to see
And
what's happening in
and
the
you're
body.
moving just like a game. You're
Yeah.
moving. You're watching the screen and you're moving to everything with like a joystick and going in and doing surgery. And so that's how it is now. It's not
I hope they're good at that game Operation. I always sucked at that.
I was good at that game.
But I mean, that's a 26% better is significantly better.
Yeah.
I think I saw it too. The joke was just like, so why would we not make every surgeon that's part of like school, like going through like this course of like video game stuff? Like, I mean, 26% is not like a small margin. That's a dramatic number. I mean, a 1/4 better by everybody just playing video games.
That's crazy.
Isn't that wild?
That is.
I thought that was
Makes
wild.
sense.
It
You
does.
know, these top video game players, I know that they also get recruited for the military, right? As drone operators and stuff like that.
and yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's wild how accurate all this stuff has become. I mean, when we were kids, okay, it's wild that when you think about how much this stuff has evolved. I mean, when we were kids, it's Mario and Atari, Pong, and stuff like that. Like, I mean, that was just, it was
Super
so
rudimentary.
basic.
Yeah.
Where now these video games translate into the real world so well. I mean, just like the car, dude, that thing is so accurate to what it's really like to drive the course. It's fascinating.
Have you seen these video game? I guess you can visit these places and they'll hook you up, and they have these like running pads, and they'll hold you in place, and then you put on
the
VR
Omni
goggles,
treadmill.
Yeah.
and you can literally run
All
and-
directions.
yeah, and so have you seen the videos? Of
I
these?
want to get
Yeah.
one of those and try it.
They look. I wonder what it's like. They look fun. So I saw one. There was
It
a
does
guy.
look fun.
A guy was filming his buddies playing. So he's on the outside, and these guys were screaming and running and like looked like they felt like they were
holding
inside.
it, and then they're like ducking.
Yeah. Looks like it might be fun.
Yeah.
I would try that.
No. I mean, you know, the glasses though, the goggles. I still haven't acclimated to like the moving like that. It still, it
that's right.
Gets me
You
nauseous.
can get nauseous.
But I do think like, I mean, it's even with the cars like that. But I feel like it's just if I do like little bouts of it, like I only race for like 10 or 20 minutes, it keeps getting better and better. So it's almost like I can train that. So I think what happened to me, like I told you guys in my mid to late 20s, was when I stopped playing video games because I just started getting sick and then I just never went back. What is this?
There it is, right
Oh, yeah,
there.
right there.
Doug, can you buy that for your house? Or is that
Check
just
that out, yeah.
Or is that just a
You want to get one here now?
no, dude? We already have an expensive ass video game. You guys.
It could fit right next
It's
to
not a
it.
video game, bro. It's a simulator.
It's okay.
It's not a,
My bad.
It's not a video game, bro.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I want to try it, but I do feel-
Ghostbusters. That'd be fun.
a Ghostbusters one. I want to do. Here's what I would do. I know Adam would never do this. Never in a million. You know what I would do?
You do the zombie
Yeah,
apocalypse
dude.
one. Yeah, we'd
I'd
never
want to
do
be
something.
in one that's terrifying.
So I played that.
That would be fun.
are fun.
Remember when we all bought the goggles
Yeah.
and that game? I think it was Resident Evil. or
Resident
that.
Evil.
It was
I still
scared
play
the
that.
shit out of me,
Yeah,
dude.
dude.
I remember the first time I played it. It was late at night. I was up in my other house.
Yeah.
It was all pitch black, and I was in the room all by myself, and I'm playing that game, and
Sneak up behind you.
Oh my god! And you can hear it, and you're like, oh my god,
yeah.
that's way too real.
I love that.
Way too real.
Hey, speaking of technology, all right, so we're going to be leaving after this to go create a new program,
Yeah.
which I love. I love doing this with
super
you
fun.
guys. We've done this a couple times. I want to remind us, we're supposed to talk about them anyway, but I want to play Brain FM Focus while we're creating
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
the program.
I'm gonna put on the Mozart.
I was
Put it
gonna say
on in the background.
Justin's pretty consistent with being that person. Like out of all of us, when it comes to using the focus for when we're
So
writing, creating, because
so
you always do it.
I
It's like,
listen-
I'm so scatterbrained otherwise, I'll be honest. Like I wish I had that when I was in school. Probably would have made my experience a lot more effective.
Dude, it's weird. You put it on, you start listening to it, and I don't know about you, Justin, but it takes me about 5 to 7 minutes before the effect really kicks in. So for 5 to 7 minutes, I'm just listening.
Yeah.
And then about 7 minutes or so into it, it's like
You're locked in.
Yes, dude.
So so Justin, when we first started working with Brain FM, I fell in love with it for the sleep. Right, that was like I
Yeah.
use that consistently. I mean, my son still uses it to this day. Justin was the one that always used it for focus, and I thought that's interesting. I'll try that, and I did it a couple times. This is really cool. What I found also that is really neat to use it is like, okay, so part of why I like audiobooks better is like if I'm reading a book, I trail off like crazy.
Yeah.
You can play focus while you read.
Yeah.
And that
Anything that you want to focus.
which sounds weird that you'd have some sound
works.
in the background. You would think it would
So-
be distracting.
so
It's the opposite. It actually
this is
helps
what it
me
does.
focus when I'm reading.
This is what it does, okay, for people listening. So they have figured out how to play certain sounds in your ears that will induce brain wave states. So there are so we could look at somebody's brain, and by looking at the different brain waves, and I don't remember what they're all called, but we can identify they're focusing on something, they're creative, this is a meditative state of mind, this is sleep, this is what your brain looks like when you're sleeping. So when you're doing all those things, when somebody's really focused, they'll look at the brain waves and they can determine this is what a focused brain looks like. Now you can reverse engineer that, play certain sounds, induce the brain waves.
Yeah.
So you can actually trigger the brain to become what you want, and then you'll get the effect. So if you want sleep, you want focus, meditation, whatever.
It's interesting. I'm sure they could never market this, but I'd be curious to, because they have like these options for like the classical music, like add-ons for the focus. You know how like all those studies back in the day, they talk about classical music and like
Yeah.
baby's development and like when mom's pregnant and,
Yeah.
you know, playing the Brain
Yeah.
FM version of that, I think would be interesting.
we did. We did that.
You did that?
Oh yeah, 100%. We did that. When we were talking about Brett with Max, we used to play that all the time with when he was in her belly.
Yeah.
Did that all the time.
Oh, nice.
No, I always wonder why we haven't done that like in schools.
I know.
Actually, there's studies right now with Brain FM and ADD.
Oh,
yeah, they're conducting studies right now.
I just think like just in general, like if imagine like every kindergarten, first grade class just kind of had it playing low
like
in the
reading
background.
time, or it's like, focused time. And you just put it over the speakers, and all the kids.
Oh my God! Did you guys hear about?
Would lock in.
Was it one of you guys that told me about this? There was this daycare where the kids were telling their parents, like during nap time, "Oh, we get a sticker that we put on before we take a nap," and the mom's like, "What do you mean a sticker?" And the little kid showed them the sticker, and the mom's like, "What?" It's a melatonin patch. And so they went back and they found out that these daycare workers were putting melatonin patch on the little kids, because then the kids would come home and be groggy.
I would flip.
Oh my God, bro. I would kill these people for doing that.
Wow.
They were putting melatonin patches on the little kids to get them to go to sleep.
Dude.
What the fuck?
What kind of, okay, you got to be able to sue for something
Of course.
like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
drugging
like,
your kids. Like, come on.
Of course.
Even if it's,
I know,
By the way,
melatonin.
But where do you get, like, I mean, you imagine this person who's probably doing that to how many kids, and they're working at a daycare, so they're probably not loaded. Like, what do you even get out of that? Like, I'd be so angry because you couldn't even sue enough to make up for how pissed I would be.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, and is anyone gonna, with a lawsuit like that, are they really going to make out with anything?
I
like
would
that?
just, I would, my wife would
crazy.
end up beating someone up is what would happen.
I mean, I used to hear some of these like shitty parents that would like feed their kid a bunch of Benadryl and stuff for
Oh my
like
God.
flights, and just so they would like
I thought that was a joke.
put
Do
them
people
out.
actually do that?
I knew people, not that they're my friends. I just like knew them, and I'm like, ugh.
What are you doing?
It just disgusted me.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, melatonin's a hormone that affects other hormones. And as an adult, take it, it's fine. You give it to a kid, it will affect their puberty hormones. It will affect how their development. In fact, I think if you give it to kids, you can actually stunt their growth, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a relatively safe hormone, but don't give it to kids. It's still marketed sometimes to kids, though, like little gummies for children, which I don't think that's a good idea.
Oh, I was just saying they have like melatonin for kids. They
don't
have like
don't
lower,
give your kids melatonin.
I thought
No,
I'd seen it before.
it's a hormone. It's a hormone, and it influences some of the other hormones, like growth hormone. It influences
serotonin and stuff like that too.
It'll influence, I believe, estrogen and testosterone in some cases.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. No, don't give your kids hormones. That's stupid.
That's crazy.
Anyway, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask Doug to look something up because I brought it up to you guys on the walk, and I haven't fact checked it, and I haven't seen any more articles. Could you look up and see, did Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens get a $700 million deal with CBS? Is that
You
true?
want to confirm
Yeah,
that?
that's right.
I do want
remember
to
you
confirm
saying
that. I saw it. I brought it up to you guys when we were walking the other day.
I wouldn't
and
be surprised.
I haven't seen anything since then, so I just want to make sure it wasn't like some silly article that wasn't true.
Yeah, seems like it's not real.
Oh, really?
From what I can tell. Again,
Sally.
not always reliable. There's a lot of things saying it's not true.
Oh, there are things saying it's not true.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
I mean, on X, no, they did not.
Okay. It was a
many
rumor.
different, so different sources say no.
I just started
What do you
reading
see,
the
Sal?
community notes on X.
That's such a weird rumor. Why even start a rumor like that?
No, it's just satire.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh.
Isn't that funny?
Why? Like, what's the point of that being satire at this point? Like,
You
who
know, I
cares?
think they're making
Like, I
a
was-
joke about it. Now, Megyn Kelly, that would make sense. Candace Owens, when I heard that, I was like, oh, really? They would sign Candace Owens?
Yeah, because
She says some stuff that you're like, oh my God.
she's pretty. Yeah,
Yeah, so no, they didn't
Volatile.
sign.
So
along those lines,
I don't trust anything I read anymore.
I know.
Fuck.
I got to say,
Yeah, I know.
Stop reading.
not right now.
so along those lines, I got to say this. So every 4 years we get a new president, and my views are I'm very consistent with how I tend to think about things, which means that regardless of who's in office, there's going to be things I disagree with, and it's so funny to me because for a long time now, people assume I'm like this hardcore conservative, and now is the time for people to think I'm liberal, and that's because there are going to be things I'll tell you one of the things that I heard that I see that I don't think is a good idea. So I know Trump is saying or talking about how he wants to deport all the illegals that have come across the border. I think it's the tune of like 15 million, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a lot.
And people don't realize
huge problem.
In order to do that, order to deport 15 million people who are not registered amongst us, that would potentially require some kind of a federal police force or something. Like, how are you going to search and find these people? What is that going to look like?
Yeah.
We don't want that.
No.
You don't want
Well,
that.
you have to unpack
No, we
why
don't
that
want
is too,
that.
though, Sal. Because it's like, okay, so let's say he gets rid of these like crazy other departments in government, right? Because I think your overarching view is more libertarian, where it's like small government.
Yeah.
Small government is and it's probably something that we all have in common, right? Like less government, less government. So the idea that he's going to come in and shrink that in a bunch of ways, that's an awesome thing. But if he shrinks that and then grows another side, that is, if he builds a department that is designed just to go deport people, because deporting 15 million people is going to take more than 10 people. It's going to take hundreds, maybe thousands of people, which means a bunch of departments, which still means tax dollars on our part,
Yeah.
which means all we did is rob Peter to pay Paul.
It's
in a
not
situation.
just the money though. What I'm afraid of is because we have 9/11 brought us this massive surveillance state
Yes.
that never went away. World War II brought us the CIA.
Yeah, but he's talking about getting rid of a lot of that stuff too. Though.
Fine, but then he's going to create a federal
Yeah, but it's kinda
police
like-
force,
right.
And then when he's gone, who inherits that? And
Yeah.
it won't go away. And so let me put it this way: remember when marijuana, and it's still federally illegal, but states legalized it. You know why states could legalize it? There was no federal police force that really could go in and enforce it. Right?
That's not why they did that.
Oh,
No, it's not.
They-
I disagree at all.
What do you mean?
I think, and I don't think we're done seeing that psyop. I think the reason why the government going is so they could track and figure everything all out before they get their hands in it.
sure, but
Let
my
everybody
point
go run. Let all these clubs run. Make their millions of dollars. Let's just collect some tax dollars so we have a really good
but
idea
here's my
of
point.
how much money there is.
They
to be
can't
made.
go in and really shut it down because they don't have the manpower. They don't have the manpower to go into every state
I don't think
and,
they ever
and
wanted
say,
to.
well, if they're going to deport, if they're really going to try and deport 15 million people who are already here amongst us, that's what they're going to have to do. And we don't want that. That'll never go away. And then whoever the next crazy person, or whoever, at some point we're going to get a crazy person in office. So maybe like Trump or whatever. They're going to have that same force, and they're going to be able to do things that your state's going to say no to, but now they have a federal force that'll come in. And not only that, but it's going to be a political nightmare because how are they going to get these people? They're going to go and knock on doors, kick doors down.
Yeah, I mean, I would much rather
within
see,
like months.
We talked about this off air. I would much rather see just stricter policies around, like zero tolerance around criminals.
crime.
Like, yeah, if you're an illegal alien and you get a speeding ticket, your ass is out.
Right.
You do anything that you're not supposed to do, like that. Just do a zero tolerance instead of like going hunting for these people. It's like
Right.
there's just no.
That's what I'm.
Or like bring them forward and allow them to go through the processes of becoming a citizen and
So-
give them a chance while they're here. It's like sealing off the border now at this point is a necessary thing. We have to do that.
Yeah, that you can do, but to go and find 15 million people, which is the number they keep saying,
That's the tough thing, right? It's like
that would require something. The medicine is
crazy
worse than the
force.
disease.
It would require growing government.
And to the point where they're going to, because there's a lot of states and local governments won't go along with it. So we'll use local police. No, you're not. Go to a liberal city and tell the mayor there, hey, they're going to say, no, we're not going to do it. So what are they going to do?
Gavin
at that
Newsom's
point?
already trying to say he's going to be insulated from all Trump's policies. And like, how can you say that and not sound treasonous?
The states have their own power, and which is a checks and balances type of deal, which I don't disagree with. I think it's protected us more than it's hurt us. But if they try to create a new federal force that's going to go in and do this and find people, I'm telling you, nobody's going to want that. It's not going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I would be worried about.
That's why it's always good to, you got to check the people in power.
I mean,
that's what it's all about. You always got to look out for all
and they
these
can use
potential problems.
remember that force could be used to take away your guns. It could be used to
but
take away other
in the
things.
same week, he came out and said that he was going to allow people to conceal and carry, dude. I mean, that's like a huge.
I like.
Which like that.
It was a
there's a lot that he's addressing. I like. Yeah, for sure.
Because that's a way to counter that right there. It's just like, okay, well, so I'm not trying to be a dictator and control, because the two things they would normally do is go after guns and speech, and those are the two opposite things that he's doing the opposite.
He's
We're trying
empowering the people
trying to go back to more free speech stuff and more.
Well,
more
here, let me paint a dystopian future for you. So 15 years from now, we have a federal police force. They used it to get rid of the illegals. You can also now conceal carry as long as you have a license in one state. It's good in all the states. That's what he said. And then a new government comes forward and they're like, hey, we're going to actually ban that and we're going to get rid of most of your guns. And everybody's like, screw you. And like, well, federal police force will come in and take it because I have control of this federal police force. That's the fear. The fear is we don't want this force that'll never go away. So if they start to create that, like, I will be very loud. about it.
Well, yeah. Hopefully, he gets good advisement.
Yeah.
He's got Ron Paul.
I mean,
hopefully Ron Paul.
That's the part that I think more than anything that this go around, I'm excited more about RFK, Ron Paul, Elon Musk.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
That to me
Vivek,
is
too.
Vivek. I mean, to me, like, hate Trump all you want and I'm not going to stand here and try to defend the dude. Like, but those people and what they've stood for and what they've campaigned on and what they've talked about they wanted to do with government, with the medical system, like. That is like what we need.
Yeah.
We need that bad. And the fact that he's empowering those people
RFK
gives me hope, at least.
RFK knows health better than any other politician I've ever heard.
For sure.
So
you see what he's been posting, saying what he wants to go do too. So I mean,
the only watchdog we've really had.
If those guys go in and go do half of what they're saying they're going to do, and of course there's also that part, right? They have to go do this shit. It's one thing to sell us all free pizza on Friday, and then no pizza ever
right now.
pizza ever comes. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to
stop hyping me.
I'm definitely not running around in my MAGA hat and like, oh, you know,
we're getting rid of the deep state.
I'm show me the money. Show me the money. That's what I want right now. But I'm more hopeful than I have been in a long time with the people that he has in power right now.
Well, Ron Paul
things that are being
happy.
said.
So as soon as it said Ron Paul, I was happy.
Oh, bro, Ron Paul, Elon Musk,
he did a great job, like really winning over, the libertarian, independent, kind of moderate.
Yeah. We'll see.
People.
We'll see what happens.
So anyway,
all right, let's give a shout out to our head trainer Kyle, who's been just crushing.
Mind Pump Kyle.
He does an excellent job. He's our head coach. We do have some coaches that work for us. Who train and coach people, and Kyle heads that department, which is going to continue to grow. And he's done just a phenomenal job. Very smart, knows his stuff, incredible integrity. And you can find him at Mind Pump Kyle, so go give him a follow. Hey, real quick, Paleo Valley makes the best tasting protein powder I've ever had in my entire life. It's their bone broth protein. I typically have chocolate, which is amazing. They have a new flavor, salted caramel. This is incredible. It tastes so good, and because it's collagen-based protein, it's super, super easy to digest. I can take large servings of this and have no gut issues whatsoever. Anyway, go check them out. Get yourself 15% off. Go to paleovalley.com/mindpump. All right, back to the show.
Our first caller's Pierre from Canada.
What's up, man?
What's happening?
How can I help you?
How's it going?
Good.
All right.
Good. I'm happy to be back here. I was on a couple years ago. Always good to see you guys. It's all right if I do a quick shout out first and simultaneous plug for MAPS programs.
Sure.
Yeah, you sold
get
it.
the air horn out.
Do it.
Yeah. So just to provide a little bit of context first, so my wrestling name is Castor McPhear. So I've been a professional wrestler on the indie circuit in Canada for the last 20 plus years. So my gimmick is an alleged actor where my opponent needs to follow the script that I carry to the ring, which is in a duotang, and my opponent never follows the script, of course. And I refer to my fans as stupid extras. So nice. I'd like to tell all of my stupid extras out there, shout out to them, that not only do they need to follow the script, but if they want to get fit and healthy, they need to follow the scripts, which are MAPS programs.
Oh, very good.
Love it.
They're not stupid. They do that.
No, you guys aren't stupid extras. You guys are stars of this whole production.
Awesome.
All right.
So what's happening, man? How can we help you?
And real quick, Adam, I've got that torn pec kind of like you do.
Oh, man.
Pec minor.
Yep.
I suffered that from wrestling last year. So it's great. It's not fake, but it's scripted.
Yeah.
So I'll get into my question.
Thanks.
So I'm looking at expanding my home gym with more variety of bands, incorporating bands more into my workouts, maybe even doing some band-only workouts. So currently, I have some loop bands and some tube bands that have with handles, and I have those in 5-pound increments from 10 to 30, as well as I have a 40, a 50, a 60, and a 100-pound band. How should I cover what I'm missing? So, for example, another question to that is, does combining a 60-pound band with a 20-pound band have the same resistance as an 80-pound band, or should I get the missing increments? I do have wall-mounted wall-mounted bars in my home gym, as well as a squat rack, so I can loop the bands around them. as well as I have connectors for doors, so I can do some throughout my house, not just in my home gym, as well as at the office. And should I keep the same philosophy as with free weights, making sure to keep 2 in the tank, not going to failure, focusing on form? Anything else I should pay close attention to when using bands that might be a bit different?
Great question.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the weight ratings on bands, it's an estimate.
Yeah.
Okay, because you take a 50-pound band. When is it 50 pounds? At what distance or stretch is it 50 pounds? Right. The further I stretch it out, the heavier it gets.
Yeah.
So you just got to go. When it comes to bands, you just base it off of feel. So a 50-pound band from the same company is going to be harder at the same stretch distance as their 30-pound band. So really just going to base it off feel. As far as like how intense you should train with bands, one of the positives of bands is that they just don't cause as much damage to the body. So you could train at a much higher intensity.
Yeah.
You could go to failure with bands and you won't suffer from the same potential recovery issues as you would from free weights or even machines. So bands, you could train much harder. They tend to be recuperative in the sense that if you did like a deload week, or month, training just with bands would provide that. But if you're advanced with your training, in my opinion, there's 2 amazing ways that bands can be used. One is travel. You don't have access to equipment. They're very convenient. The second is using them in addition to your free weights, the way powerlifters do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at the way powerlifters have traditionally used bands, they'll attach them to the bottom or the top of a squat to change the resistance curve. And that is, in my opinion, one of the best ways to get stronger with lifting, especially if you're advanced. And it doesn't, like, people will use chains for something similar, but chains require more recovery. Bands, I could put bands on a bar, add a bunch more resistance, and it doesn't feel like adding more weight. And it matches, the strength curve is pretty awesome. Like the bottom of the squat is going to be easier than the top of the squat, which incidentally matches where I'm weaker and where I'm stronger. So I can make a squat more challenging where I'm stronger and less challenging where I'm weaker. Whereas, when you're squatting with free weights, like you're typically limited by the weakest part of the rep, which would be the bottom for most people. So for someone like you who's been working out for a while, like this is how I would use bands. I would use it the way powerlifters do. Yeah. And this is just a phenomenal way to add strength.
I love doubling up on bands too. And we rarely get to talk about stuff like this because, people, aren't really on that level in terms of intensity. And it's hard to set it up properly, but to add a bit more challenge to your lifts, plus the longevity of the rubber bands, it helps to kind of extend their life in terms of them, fraying and falling apart. But yeah, you can go pretty intense with bands as long as you have like adequate control, and you can perform these exercises, appropriately. So, I'm all for it. Even the lower rep range is great with bands.
Are we doing this in conjunction with regular traditional strength training, or are we trying to do just a band workout? I just want to make sure I have clarity on that. Like
a little bit of both. Like I wouldn't mind doing like an exclusive band thing, but also because I do my workout when I get home from work, but I'd like to sometimes be able to do a bit when days are busier and I don't get home till much later. It'd be nice to do part of my workout in the morning before work, but then the wife and kids are still sleeping at that time because it's pretty early. And I work out at home, and the barbell, doing deadlifts could probably wake up the kids and wife when you don't want to, right? Too. Yeah. So as a supplemental, sometimes.
So I think you would benefit from. I'll have Doug send over MAPS bands for you. I think you would benefit from running MAPS bands for a little while as a standalone program, so you get the feel of like how we've programmed bands. And then that's how you would now, okay, today's a day where the kids are sleeping. I'm not going to do my traditional workout. I'm going to supplement one of those days. But I would run the bands as it's laid out for at least a few weeks so you get kind of a feel of what it's like and what we're trying to accomplish by training with if we only had bands. And then you can then go like, let's say you're running a MAPS anabolic type of protocol. and Wednesday is a foundational day, and you kids are sleeping, and so I'm going to pull from one of the MAPS bands programs that that mirrors this kind of a workout the most, and then slide it in there when you can.
You know, one thing I did leave out, one other benefit of bands is they're super good for speed training. They're really, really good for explosive.
Speed power, yeah.
Oh yeah, like just because of the nature of the band themselves, you want to work on explosive power, plyometric type stuff, and add resistance.
Yeah, it's way less jerky.
Bands are superior to pretty much any other modality.
Okay. And are they good to combine with dumbbells too? Like I've seen some exercises where people use a band and a dumbbell and like combine them for either a press or a curl.
Yeah, I mean, you could get really cool. You could do some really creative things with bands. For example, okay, let's say I'm doing a dumbbell chest press, right? There's a lot of different ways I can add bands to a dumbbell chest press. One is having the bands pull straight down. So it's harder at the top than it is at the bottom. That'd be more of a traditional way. I could also attach the bands at angles, because when I'm doing the press, the action of the chest is abduction, right? Bringing the upper arm closer together.
It's pulling you out.
So now I'm pressing up, but I'm also resisting them from separating, and now I have to squeeze them together. And there's so many different ways to use bands. You can get really creative with bands in ways that you can't with other modalities.
And really what you're doing is you're manipulating the strength curve, right? If you were doing a traditional barbell press or dumbbell press, as you get close to the top of your press, it's very little chest. Like most of your chest is getting the most of the work in the deep movement. As you get up towards the top, it's very little chest anymore, and now it's like a little bit of tricep extension to finish the rep off. When you have bands that are resisting the whole way, all the way to the end is actually one of the most difficult parts to finish the rep. So you're manipulating the strength curve, so it now becomes like a different exercise by incorporating that. So it's a great way to, novel stimulus.
Totally.
If you haven't done that in a long time, to incorporate the bands like that also. But I think for sure, going through a cycle of MAPS bands, the protocol in there, so you can see how we program the band exercises, and then you can start to intermittently add it into your routine or supplement one of those days on the days where you don't want to wake the kids up or things like that.
Okay. And you said I can go more intense with the bands.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. This is where we would say things like training to failure is okay.
More frequency, more intensity. It's not going to hit you as hard.
Yeah. That's why in MAPS bands too, it's pretty much, it's like 5-6 days a week. Like you could keep training bands pretty consistently.
Okay. And with that program, does it work well? Say if I have time to do a few exercises in the morning before work, for example, take the bands to work, break time, throw it in the door in my office, do some sets.
Little trigger session kind of approach. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
You got it, brother. We'll send that program to you.
Yeah. All right. You guys are great. Thanks. I appreciate that.
All right,
thanks, brother.
All right. Take care.
Because I use bands a lot as a trainer, especially towards the back half of my career.
Yeah.
And I didn't use it with my clients often the way that we just explained. That was for me and maybe a couple advanced clients. But for my clients, it was bands for correctional purposes are amazing.
Superior.
Oh yeah. Like if I had a client who would squat and their knee would travel in one direction, I would put some resistance in the direction that I want them to push their knee out so that they'd also strengthen that stability. And so anytime I saw deviations in form, for people who aren't familiar with this, like I would have bands attached at different angles.
Yeah.
Getting the person to straighten themselves out.
Well, like deadlifting, having it out in front. So
that they, exactly, for that extension.
You can do cool things like that where it does it coaches you through. So you correct your form because of the fact that it's in a different
that
angle.
you have to pull against the band. Totally.
Our next caller is Matt from Massachusetts.
Matt, what's happening?
What's up, man?
How's it going, guys?
Good.
So, do you want me to jump in with my question or give you a little bit of background?
Go into your question, but we'll ask you questions if we need more context.
Okay, so just kind of a little bit about myself. So, 48-year-old, father of 4. Started listening to you guys about 4 years ago. Got to say, you guys have kind of changed my whole approach to things. Really changed my fitness completely. Back in my 20s, I did kind of like a full body split, 4 days a week. And then later in life, took up marathoning, which led to overuse injuries. And I probably did the worst thing I could do. I went from that to CrossFit, which was great because wasn't kind of beating me up the same way marathoning was. But because my fitness kind of got much better doing CrossFit, I kind of jumped back into marathoning, was doing both marathoning and CrossFit, which again, not ideal. So at that point, I was probably down to about 165 pounds. Not really ideal for anything. Life changes happened, so divorced, everything kind of change of career and everything led me kind of to you guys. So on my kind of commute back and forth to work, I started listening to your podcast. Again, kind of at that point, I was still kind of doing my own thing workout wise. Turned some other people onto your show. One of my friends actually bought Anabolic, got me doing it with him. And right away, I noticed a big difference. And just to kind of plug it for you guys, anyone who is thinking about getting a program, isn't sure if they should get a program, once you start a program, one of these mass programs, you'll see results. I saw results instantly, and having done something with him, it led me right away to, before we even finished the program, I was like, okay, now I'm going to buy Performance. I'm going to buy Powerlift, which was and just kind of in doing those programs, again, just I wanted to kind of continue to mix it up. So again, went from Anabolic to Performance to Powerlift, kind of back to Anabolic, back to Performance, back to Anabolic, and now I'm doing Split, and I'm in phase 3 of Split, and I wanted to, again, was just kind of looking for something different to do, and with doing Split, I noticed the volume goes up significantly, but surprisingly, my body's reacted really well to it. No injuries, no any issues, but going from like a 3-day work week version of like Anabolic to a 6-day week program, I thought for sure I would have some struggles. But now, like, my question is, I've kind of made these big changes in life, again, kind of changed my diet, changed my programming, and I'm jumping around. And now I don't know kind of where to go next. Do I go from Split to like a MAPS aesthetic, which is kind of what I had kind of planned, or do I
Symmetry.
kind of pull it back a little bit and do something similar to like a MAPS 15, or again, change it up and do something kind of in between, like a Anabolic Advance?
Symmetry.
Yeah, I think Symmetry would be
MAPS
good.
Symmetry would be
but
great for you.
we got to back up a little bit too. What do you mean by, like, explain what you mean by your body or you're responding really well to high volume? What do you mean by, because you said you didn't get injured, but that's I mean, hopefully, right? Yeah. Not getting injured doesn't necessarily mean it's the right program. It just means you're not going too far in one direction. What else have you noticed? What do you mean that you responded well?
Okay, so just to kind of put it in context. So since I started MAPS programs, like I said, I was down at about 165 pounds as a marathoner. I'm up to between 200 and 205 pounds now. And a lot of that, again, thanks to your programming, but also diet changes. Muscle-wise, I'm definitely leaner than I was, prior to doing Split. Strength hasn't gone down at all, and I was kind of concerned with the volume going up. I would see really hits to my strength. Haven't seen any dips in strength at all. And again, just continue. The workouts seem to get easier as I go along. I will say though, starting phase 3, I had to like check my ego at the door and bring the weight significantly down than what I thought I was going to have to do initially. But once I made that adjustment, again, everything kind of fell into place. So again, just I'm sleeping well. I'm not tired. I'm not having any issues, which I thought, again, having a much higher volume program like Split, I would kind of run into. But that hasn't been the case at all.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, if you continue to, typically though, if you continue down the high volume path, you may run into some problems.
Which is why I said not MAPS aesthetic.
Yeah.
MAPS aesthetic isn't the best thing right now.
No, I like Symmetry. After Symmetry, I'd go low volume, like
15.
Anabolic or MAPS 15 advanced, and then you could scale back up. Because volume is also cumulative, meaning, if you're tolerating it well now, if you keep going down that path, though, then it starts to add up. So you want to go through periods of like sprints when it comes to volume. You don't want to just constantly be at that high volume phase. But Symmetry would be perfect based off of all the other programs that you've run. I think you're going to get some great gains with Symmetry, and it's just the appropriate program at this point for you to kind of balance the body out. And you'll notice some discrepancies and weaknesses with it, which is great. And you'll see great results. That's the perfect program to follow up.
If you want to test MAPS Aesthetic, I would go to Symmetry, 15, and then do Aesthetic.
Right.
So if you want to see what MAPS Aesthetic is all about and get the best bang for your buck running that program, since that is the highest volume program we have, I would run Symmetry first, then MAPS 15, and then Aesthetic. And that combo right there should set you up for the most likely for you to be successful through MAPS Aesthetic.
No, and I was kind of thinking similar to what you. That's why I was kind of not really sure where to go. If I should really cut it back to like a MAPS 15, or kind of find some of that middle ground.
You could.
Again, that's why
you could go to MAPS 15 right now too, but you'll benefit to doing some unilateral work. Yeah. Since you're coming off of a split like that,
and anabolic,
like you've run a lot of bilateral stuff. So a Symmetry program where you're doing unilateral work will be really
It'll
good.
expose any imbalance too. So that way, you'll be able to kind of reinforce your joints and strength and stability, so you can keep this going for the longevity of it. I know, we like to just get into the intensity and get to the results, but this is, there's a period that you need to get back and really help kind of strengthen.
You'll build good muscle with Symmetry.
Oh,
your body will respond really.
And
really
the last
well.
phase, you test it with the 5x5.
Yeah.
So you're going to get to see it expressed in the end of that program. Just think
that's all the benefit.
You've been like a car. You've been putting a lot of effort into building the horsepower, and you've built a lot of horsepower the last year. Now let's reinforce the suspension and the steering and like the chassis. Like that's like Symmetry. Think of it like that.
But you'll see your body develop from an aesthetic point of view as well. And we have people send in DEXA scans after following Symmetry before and after. And they build great muscle, especially in the imbalances. So like, right to left side, right leg has this much lean body mass, left leg has this. Then they'll follow Symmetry and they'll come back and they built both, but the side that was weaker now is caught up to the other side. And then it just provides.
Byproduct is your performance goes through the roof.
Yeah. That'll be the perfect program. Do you have that one? Can we send it to you, Matt?
I don't have them. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
You got it, bro. We'll send it to you.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and my goal is, as they said, I'm 48 now. I'm creeping up on 50. I hope to age like Doug and kind of age backwards. So that's kind of the goal. Yeah. And so again, trying to find the right mix of what programs to run and kind of how to do it and keep myself injury free, but continue to kind of build strength as I age.
Yeah, if you just stay consistent and be smart and prioritize, sleep and diet and all that. And then at your age, I would also look at, we're all roughly in the same age group. I would get my hormones tested, just see where you're at, because the next phase would be, if you need any help there. But you're doing a great job. You're doing really well. You said you're leaner at 205, which is excellent. Yeah. You're talking about your strength going up, which is great. You're going to really, really enjoy Symmetry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to kind of put it in perspective. So going from 165 to 205, I only gained 2 inches on my waist.
Wow.
The rest of it was everywhere else. So again, that was thanks to your programming.
That's awesome.
I have the opposite problem as Adam, though. Like me, I just think about doing any kind of like calf raises and my calves explode, but I can't grow my arms at all. it's the struggle. So I'm hoping maybe with Symmetry, that'll kind of catch up a little bit.
Definitely. Sure. Definitely.
Awesome, Matt. We're going to send that over to you, brother.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, my friend.
Right on.
I love those DEXA scans we get from people too, where it shows like right to left,
the lean mass,
and you see like, oh my God, you gained 5 pounds, and it all went to the areas that were not balanced out. Which from I know we have a program called MAPS Aesthetic, but from an aesthetic point of view, by the way, speaking of aesthetics, he said he went from 165 to 205, gained 2 inches on his waist. Now here's the reality of how he looks. His waist is going to look smaller 2 inches bigger because he probably added 4 or 5 inches around his shoulders and his chest.
Totally.
And that's really what it's all about.
Solid.
Yes.
At
yes.
2 inches around your waist when you put on 40 pounds is not a lot.
No.
Yeah.
No.
If you put 40 pounds on, you're going to.
I mean, his glutes grew, his shoulders grew, his chest grew, his back grew. So proportionally, it looks amazing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's early access to Black Friday. All MAPS programs, all bundles, 60% off. Also, if you get a bundle, you'll get 10 entries to win. If you buy a program, you'll get 5 entries to win. Everything else, 1 entry to win. 5 days at the Mind Pump House in Park City. It's got a gym. It's got a cold dip. It's got a sauna. It's got red light therapy. It's all kinds of great stuff. 5-day vacation hooked up with $1,000 for travel accommodations as well. Early access Black Friday. Go to mapsfitnessproducts.com and then use the code Black Friday for the 60% off and the entries to win a vacation at the Mind Pump Park City House. All right, back to the show.
Our next caller is Thomas from Illinois.
Thomas, what's happening?
What's going on, Thomas?
What's up, man?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing good, man.
Good. Hey, first of all, I want to say thank you for everything you guys do. Maybe you guys don't get this a whole lot, but thanks for validating how I work out. When I was younger, me and my buddy, we started working out when we were teenagers, and we were inspired by the Westside Barbell.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone made fun of us for like lifting slow and taking our time. So when I got into my 20s, I thought they were right. I thought I was wrong. So I started lifting like an asshole. And so doing like the stupid lifts and found you guys. I was like, thank you for validating what I've known all along. So I appreciate you guys for that. Now I can spread the word through other people. But I'll get to my question. I have in front of me here. I'm writing to you guys to get a better guidance on my intensity in my workout. For context, I am 5'11", 230, which has kind of been the heaviest I've been. Former college football player, currently serving the National Guard, have a family of 6, 4 kids, 2 adults. I work at a big box gym as a head of operations. So on average, I get about 15 to 20,000 steps in a day. I'm currently running MAPS 15 Advanced, ending phase 2 this week. I track my food intake with my calories being anywhere from 24 to 2,800 a daily. My protein, I'm really trying hard there. Average about 160 to 200 grams daily. Recently, I've been focusing on my sleep, listening to your guys' podcast, understanding the value and power of that. So I used to get anywhere from 5.5 to 6. Now I'm more in that 8 range. I'm trying to get in bed a lot sooner. My goal is to get back down to 15% body fat. I use an in-body scale here at work, but I can't seem to get down to 19%. I know you guys talk about how your body adapts to cardio and activity. With how much activity I'm doing during the day, is that preventing or has my body adapted? And what can I do to overcome the activity I have to do during that time?
Yeah, your activity. So think of it this way when it comes to movement. Think of like steps is for health and diet for leanness. Okay. Now, as far as what you're doing, I don't think it's getting in the way, especially if you've been doing this for a while. 15 to 20,000 steps. I don't think this is part of your job, right? You walk around the gym. Yeah. And so you're not like trucking, you're just moving. I don't think I don't think this is a problem.
I mean, something jumps out to me right away.
Protein.
Yep. Here's the thing about protein that's so. First of all, 160 is really low for you. 200 is not bad. It's still not even optimal. I would be trying to push. I would
220.
220 would be where I'd want to target
every day.
And that's the thing that people don't understand is that we store carbs and fat. Your body stores it for later on for fuel. Protein doesn't work that way. So it's not like an average of your week. So let's say you have like a really good protein day at 240, and then you run back the next day and you do 160. You don't get to take the average of the two and say, oh, I averaged this. It's if you missed, you missed, and you're going backwards.
Okay.
Your body, for your size, has your body fat percentage. I'm guessing if it's around 19. So he's probably sitting at 170 pounds of muscle, give or take, roughly, maybe around there, right? So you every day that you don't hit beyond 170 in your protein intake, we're going backwards in muscle. So what you might what might be happening for you is you're lifting weights and you're hitting protein intake consistently enough to kind of maintain, but you're having a hard time breaking through and making progress. One of the biggest things that will help you in this pursuit is consistently hitting those higher protein intake numbers. That's going to be a big deal.
Thomas, when they do studies on this, you know, same calories and everything, one high protein and one not as high, the high protein group builds more muscle and loses more and burns more fat. So if you just change nothing else and just hit 220 grams of protein consistently every single day and your calories stayed the same, you would see yourself probably build some muscle and lose some body fat to the tune of probably 3% or so just from doing that alone.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's just the process of, you know, cutting your calories a little bit or whatever. But I would just keep it there and be consistent. And you'll probably see yourself at a nice slow pace get where you want, especially with like your lean body mass, your 190 pounds of lean body mass, college football player. You've probably got really good muscle building genetics. You just got to be consistent with the diet.
Yeah. And the beauty of consistently hitting the protein intake and feeding that muscle as you build, your metabolism is going to speed up. So you'll
start to get leaner.
So you'll naturally become in a cut. All of a sudden, you know, say 2,800 was like what maintained your weight, but now you actually start building muscle because you're hitting that protein intake. Now your new, you know, maintenance is 3,000 calories. So when you have days where you only hit 2,500 calories, you're going to lean out. So hitting that consistently and kind of focusing on, you know, a lot of this stuff that we're talking to in your size. Have you watched any of the series I'm doing on YouTube right now?
Actually, yeah, I just started that the other day.
Okay, good. Watch that because I communicate a lot of this stuff, and that's and I actually just talked about. So you know, what just happened to me, and we flew out to Florida for 4 or 5 days. And during that time, I got one little workout in. It was really hard for me to know exactly where my calorie intake was. I probably missed protein a couple days. And I explained like why that's like even just 4 days of that is so detrimental to my progress. Yeah, I didn't get fat. Yeah, I didn't lose 10 pounds of muscle, but I certainly took a step back and probably canceled out all the great work I did the week before, which equates to a plateau. And this happens to people all the time, even when they're not traveling. And I don't think they realize how important it is to be sending that signal to build muscle, to make sure I'm pairing that with always hitting protein intake so that I'm always building that muscle and ramping that metabolism up. So continue to watch that. You'll get value.
Thomas, you're giving us a range of 24 to 2,800 calories, 160 to 200 grams of protein. Are you really tracking or is this an estimate?
So for breakfast and dinner, I typically have the exact same meal. So breakfast, I have about a 70-gram protein breakfast. Listening to you guys, I try to start out the day really strong. The thing that kills me, and I'm trying to work on it the last week or so, being in the position I'm in, I'm constantly busy. So lunch has always been a struggle. Lately, I've been able to bring some steak home or steak to work and eat. But at night, I usually eat either chicken thighs or chicken breast, along with some other maybe turkey that my fiance made, stuff like that. So I know what I'm getting on the bookends. I know for myself it's the middle of the day that kills me, and trying to either break down those meals into little meals. As you guys know, working in the fitness space, even though I'm no longer a personal trainer on the ops side, it's hectic. I don't really get a whole ton of downtime. So
bring your food.
I'm debating whether to break down the meals or
bring your food with you. It's easier. I mean, when I worked in gyms, it was easier when I brought my food. It was 10 minutes I could eat a small meal, so I would just eat, you know, every few hours, and it made it really easy for me to bring it. And that's the only really way to know, because, you know, eating out and all that stuff, especially if you're in a rush, then you get behind the 8 ball.
And this is when I hear about your background, your genetics, probably your where you're at, calorie, that you got good programming. The missing piece here is going to be just purely consistency around the diet. And by diet, I mean it's because I don't mean you're eating bad food. It's missing that protein consistently. You got to do that, because what's probably happening is every time you take 3 steps forward, you take 2 back, and so you're kind of feeling like you're barely moving because you're having these days where you're missing, and so putting your focus around, okay, I need to figure out a way to be consistent. This is also too where shakes do make sense. Like you always hear us promote whole foods, and I'm always going to push you in the direction of whole foods first. But the reality is, you have people that have jobs like this, and hey, maybe that, a shake or two in the middle of the day is just what it's going to take to make sure you're hitting that optimal protein intake all the time. I think that is going to make the biggest difference where you're currently at.
Yeah. What big box company do you work for, by the way?
I work for a Lifetime.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah,
Great company.
Yeah, so we're out in the Chicagoland. So next time you're out here, let me know. We got rooftop pool. We got it all over here, which is nice.
Yeah, great company.
Great
But
company.
yeah,
Awesome.
we got 10 pools that rock my world. I do have one more question when it comes to diet. For breakfast, I do have I eat chicken sausages. Now, would you classify that as processed, or you would?
Yeah, I mean, there's a range of sausage. You know, I mean, it is processed in the meat category. It would be considered processed, but you could go less or more processed depending on the company and what kind of, you know, like butcher box sausages are
grass fed.
Some of the best ones that I found.
Heritage pork.
Yeah, there's some of the best ones that I found. But it's still processed meat when in that category.
It's
but
also not the end of the world, though. This is not is not the big rock here. Like I'm gonna get picky about your processed foods later after you hit your protein intake consistently. Like so, it's like
It's not like a hot dog. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It's not.
That's what I was worried about.
No,
I hear you guys talk about processed food, and I'm like, oh no, am I wrong for? Because like 2 of those, what they say is, 2 of those is about 32 grams of protein, give or take, 10%. So I eat 2 of those every morning. I'm thinking, oh no, is this something I'm missing out?
No, it's not. It's not. Listen, it's not a horrible choice. It's not the best choice. I mean, I'd rather see you take some of the carrot from your wife's turkey or chicken from the night before,
scramble,
mix it with some eggs. I'd love to see that. That would be the most ideal thing. Is cooking bigger bulk, and so you always have leftover in the morning, and you throw 2 or 3 eggs on top of 4 to 6 ounces of chicken, turkey, or beef, and that's much better option.
Yeah.
But that ain't like turkey sausage. I mean, chicken sausage is not what's, keeping you at 19% body fat. It's consistently hitting that protein intake in the middle of the day. And it sounds like the amount of activity you're doing, the size you already are, lean body mass wise, you need that. And that's what's kind of keeping you stuck there is you need to you could literally, Thomas, you're a big enough dude. You could get away with eating 250 grams of protein. Like easily, easily your body could handle and would use that. Like, you being at 160 and 200 on a good day is where we're missing right there for sure.
Okay,
that's the big rock. Hit that first, then we can nitpick the types of food. And then,
sounds good.
And then also,
I appreciate you guys.
You have a bunch of trainers that work there. Yeah, how many trainers you got at that?
I think let's see. I think I got 31 now.
Okay, so
I work here.
You got operations. You need to get over there and get all of them to listen to the free webinar that Sal and I are doing on the 12th. So they should all be listening to that.
Look, I'm trying.
Yeah.
But I do want to say one thing. I heard a listener a while ago talk about the Army and their PT test. If you guys come out with that, I'll definitely buy it because I'm a company commander right now, and we have to go through all the PT stuff, and I have to counsel people. I'm using what you guys teach me to try to coach them. But if there's a program, I definitely run it in my unit.
Email us the format. Email exactly what you have to accomplish, and then we can reverse engineer it and write a good program for it. That's what we need. We need someone who's got like firsthand experience. Tell us exactly what you need to be proficient in, and then we can write the programming.
All right, consider it done.
Cool.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time.
All right,
you got
Thomas.
it, man. Take it easy.
All right, see ya.
Yeah, right away when I see ranges, I eat from here to here, here to here. You're not tracking, so you really don't know.
Yeah,
and it could be way off. His ranges could be.
And I always lean towards you're probably hitting the lower of those. You know what I'm saying? Like if he's eating, especially if you're only, dude, you're 235. He's not a little boy. He's a big dude, right? He's a big and ex-football. You can see by his neck, like he's a solid. He's a solid dude, right? So and if he's saying 160, 200, and he's really only tracking the bookends, which is the breakfast and he
already started with 30 grams of protein for breakfast.
Yeah,
you ain't gonna hit 200.
No, and
I have to have 50 plus grams of protein for breakfast, otherwise I'm gonna miss.
And that right there, like before he gets into like processed food and supplements or all these, it's like, dude, you just do that, and that will solve a lot of this plateau that he's in right now.
Our next caller is Michelle from Ohio.
Hi, Michelle.
How you doing, Michelle?
Hello. How can I help you?
First of all, thank you so much. This is crazy. When I sent in the email, I was barely expecting a response, much less a chance to get to talk to you guys. So this is really exciting, and thank you.
Thank you. How can we help you?
So I'm listening to your podcast now, not for very long. Discovered you a few months ago when looking for some just some insight on perimenopause and how it impacts training and all that. So my question is about coming from a former history of really a lot of cardio training. I was a long distance endurance triathlete, and then kind of how now that I have woken up to the effects that has on metabolism, how that's impacting me today. So a little bit of background. I spent most of my life pretty morbidly obese. I was about 318 pounds and then had bariatric surgery in 2013. Through that, I lost, at my lowest weight, I had lost a total of 150 pounds. Gained a little bit of that back, which I'll get to, but through that and kind of that new lifestyle, I discovered my love for triathlon. And so I spent about 7 or 8 years doing long course distance racing, so training, doing steady state cardio, anywhere from 2 to 6 hours a day. I did a 160-mile bike ride across the state of Indiana. So all things cardio, very little weight training, unless it was off season. And then I tried to skip that as much as possible.
Wow.
So did that. And then life happened and I got to sort of middle age and I was mentally and physically just burnt out from triathlon. And so I just walked away. I was in the process of training for my 3rd Ironman. And 3 weeks out, I just couldn't do it anymore. I was hating every minute. And so I stepped away from that and pretty rapidly, because I went from that serious, calorie deficit and I was always eating super low carb and training all day long, to really just walking and trying to move. I gained about 30 pounds in the course of 3 months. And that wasn't even eating crazy amounts of high fatty foods or anything. I was still pretty healthy, but just that rapid drop in activity. So pulled myself together, realized like this is not the road that I want to go back down ever again. I need to make some changes. Perimenopause hit me like a full-on truck all of a sudden as well. And so I started searching for answers. So I started hormone replacement therapy and started reading about the benefits of lifting weights and how cardio can almost, have a negative impact. Discovered your podcast and all the advice. So all that, my question is, for about the past 10 weeks, I've been following a strength training program. I've been lifting heavy 4 to 5 days a week, splitting that with 1 full body workout, and then the other days split between upper and lower. I spend active rest days riding my bike because I enjoy it, doing some easy running. But over the past 10 weeks, I've had 0 results, not a single pound lost on the scale, no change in body fat percentage. I measured inches, no change whatsoever. So my question for you guys is, knowing that I'm coming from this place of, probably a pretty slow metabolism with all that cardio and calorie deficit, do I stay the course, doing what I'm doing and hope that kind of my metabolism comes back up? I am still eating in a calorie deficit, getting around 16 to 1700 calories a day, minimum of 120 grams of protein. I recently have tried to up that to 140, finding that a little bit hard with the calorie range that I'm in, but still kind of making it happen. So do I stay the course, keep doing what I'm doing, or is there something else that I can change to maybe speed up my metabolism and reverse some of the damage that I might have done?
Yeah, we need a reverse diet. And then I'd love to send you one of our programs to follow, although that one doesn't sound bad. But we need a reverse diet. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, so Michelle, we have – all right, let me ask you a question. Do you want to get out of this cycle that you've been in for as long as you have been?
Desperately, yes. Okay. I don't ever remember a day in my life where I was not on a diet.
Okay, so this is going to take some recovery and some work, okay? So we got to – so number one, that mentality – that you're in where you're beating yourself up, because you're still beating yourself up. You're not beating yourself up as much as you did before, but you're still beating yourself up. You're measuring yourself daily. You're counting your calories. You're working out, strength training heavy 4 or 5 days a week. There's a boot camp class, it looks like you said, on your off day, or a 2-hour hike.
Oh wow, I didn't see that.
Yeah, we got to there's some recovery that needs to happen, and it's going to take a little while. And that means there's going to be a while of not seeing big changes on the scale, but I'm also going to tell you that you keep doing what you're doing, you're also not going to see big changes on the scale, and you're just going to stay where you're at for even longer until your body rebels even more, which is already kind of what happened. You already got that rebel signal from your body, which felt like you hit a wall, and now you're supplementing with hormones, which is fine, but that's just going to extend the process if we don't reverse course. You need to go through a long season of recovery. So what does that look like? Well, it starts with the mentality of taking care of yourself and not hating yourself anymore. You need to stop punishing yourself with your workouts, and you need to stop looking at food as either a restriction or as an escape. So in other words, you're going to need to feed your body like you're taking care of yourself, and you need to look at your workouts as a way of caring for yourself. It's not 4 or 5 days of strength training. It's probably 2 days a week of strength training, and it's walking on the other days. And I'm not talking 3-hour hikes. I'm talking like you're walking twice a day for 30 minutes, and then maybe incorporating some mindfulness in all of that, and then a slow reverse diet, a nice, easy, slow reverse diet where we speed up your metabolism over the course of about a year. Now, we can oftentimes speed up someone's metabolism in a shorter period of time, but coming from where you came from, in my experience, I've worked with people who've come from gastric bypass, like the whole deal. I had a few clients that they're almost identical to what you did, where they went gastric bypass. Then they're attracted to the most damaging, beat myself up form of exercise, which is grueling, long, steady state, run, cycle, swim. I mean, you did an Ironman, you went the whole nine. It's going to take a good year of backing up, allowing your body to recover, letting your body believe it's okay, like things are okay. We're not going to go back to beating ourselves up, and slowly speeding metabolism up. That's 2 days a week of strength training. I can send you a program. I don't want you to follow your own program. I don't want you to follow programming you're going to find from fitness influencers. Most of them are idiots. Follow one of ours. Slow down. Let yourself get stronger. All I want you to pay attention to for the next year is, can I maintain kind of where I'm at? Can I make myself feel better? Can I treat myself well? And can I get stronger? I want to see you significantly stronger at the end of the year than at the beginning. And that's how we know we're on the right track. And then slowly increase your calories to the tune of 50 to 100 calories each week. If you start to notice big changes in the scale, then pause where you're at, let it sit there for a little bit, and bump it up another 100. And I'd like to see you in the mid 2000s with your calories. I'd like to see you in a place where you're eating 2,500 calories and you're not doing crazy workouts and you're not gaining weight. Then when we're there, and we're there for a little while, okay, now we're getting in a healthy place. Then we can start to figure out how to reverse. But you've got like a road of recovery ahead of you. And again, I'm going to sell this to you. If you don't do this, the signals that your body's telling you are just going to get louder.
And let me, and no, Sal gave it really blunt and hard. That was that was like straightforward, everything. There's some really positive things that you will have an advantage of. Your athletic background, having that the mental discipline and fortitude can be a strength of ours if we use it appropriately. And what I mean by that, it's not the way you approach lifting and getting after it or training really hard. It's that you probably are a dialed person and you're very methodical and you probably track diligently. Like, those are all positive things that we can use during this process. But when people hear things like strength training is the way to go and it's super beneficial to you, you also have to feed and recover appropriately for strength training. Otherwise, it turns into just another form of cardio. And so the way it's being used right now at a low calorie with that many days a week, you're actually just doing another form of cardio. I know that sounds kind of weird because you're lifting weights, but when you're lifting weights that often, that frequently, that intense, when you're that low of calorie, the body isn't getting to recover and adapt and build muscle, which is the real benefits from strength training. In order to do that, it have to have the proper amount of intensity, the proper amount of frequency, the proper amount of nutrition to then reap all the beautiful benefits of that. Now, maybe in the future, we get to train this much. Like, once we've earned the right to do 4 or 5 days a week of strength training, when the body is getting ample amount of rest, ample amount of calories. But where you're currently at, the reason why Sal is making you come all the way back to 2 days is we got to get there. We're not there yet. And right now, doing that right now is actually working against you. And it's hard to get somebody who has trained so hard for so long to switch that, because I know that's probably going to be the most hardest part of this whole thing is, wait a second, you're telling me I'm only going to lift weights twice a week. Like that's not very much, but that's okay. Go for walks. You know, I'm not going to tell you not to move. Like go for a walk, listen to the podcast, do other things, work internally, do some yoga, do mobility work. That's all fine. Movement, like low intensity movement, is a very good thing for us right now. But all you need is about 2 days of full body training, and that's a loud enough muscle building signal if we feed the body appropriately calories and protein.
You'll get stronger, Michelle. You'll get stronger pretty consistently. That's what I want you to pay attention to. If you're getting stronger, it's working. And you will, on a weekly basis, almost weekly basis, see your strength go up. And then you'll know you're moving in the right direction.
And if we build muscle, we'll build the metabolism.
There's a right dose, and that's really what we're trying to get at in terms of your body actually moving forward. Otherwise, the more we add, we're just going to have to heal from that. And it's detracting us from actually fully moving forward and adapting towards the stimulus. So the recovery is really where you're building everything.
Yeah, it's not, there's a right dose for your body to adapt and change and progress. And then there's what you can tolerate. What you can tolerate is not the right dose. What you can tolerate is just what you can heal from, but it's not what you can adapt to. Michelle, would you be open to working with a coach, to have somebody coach you on a somewhat regular basis?
Yeah. I had a coach all through my time as a triathlete. And then when I started weightlifting recently, I was doing kind of a semi-private coaching thing, like 3 people to 1 coach scenario. I won't go into that. It didn't really work out. And then I started doing a different plan. But yes, I'm very coachable.
So I'm gonna do 2 things here. I'm gonna put you in our forum if you're not in there already, and I want you to periodically go in there and tag us so we can support you, because this is going to be a tough process. Not because the work is tough. You've done way harder workouts than what we're recommending.
Yeah, it's a shift.
The psychological aspect's going to be tough. Okay, it'll pop up every month or so. So you post on the forum, tag us, hey, I'm struggling, hey, and I feel like I can do more, hey, this whatever, and we'll get in there and we'll help you out. And then I'm going to refer to you, and we haven't opened this to the public, and everybody listening right now, it's not open to the public yet, but I'm going to send you some referrals for coaches that work under us. These are coaches that I trust, and I know they're really good, and so I'll send you some names, and then you can talk to them, and then if you want, you can work with them. But I'm going to put you in the forum for free. And then I'm going to send you MAPS Anabolic. That's the program I want you to follow. It's 2 days a week strength training. I think that's the appropriate program.
Yeah.
And if
you'll do really good on that.
You'll get stronger weekly. And if you're getting stronger, you know your metabolism is moving in the right direction. That's the best sign.
I also want to commend you for getting the hormones handled and getting on the HRT, because that's going to be a huge benefit to us too. That's going to be the fact, because that's a whole nother monster that we normally have to overcome if somebody is coming from your place is, man, you could be doing all the right things programming and nutritionally, and if your hormones are out of whack, you're not going to see results either. So at least you are getting monitored, checked, and we're getting that balance. So now, that being optimal for us is huge. If now we just give the appropriate dose of training with the right nutrients and recovery, you will see strength train, you will build muscle, you will build a metabolism, and we will come out of this. But the psychological part will be the hardest thing.
Always.
And please, we're setting you up for free on the program, setting you up for free inside the forum. Take advantage.
Utilize it, yeah.
Take advantage of it. Use us. Let us help you through this process, because it absolutely will be life-changing when we get a hold of this.
Totally.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think it really resonated with me when you said that I needed to earn the right to come back to that, because it's not, I have done plenty of beating myself up over my life, over my weight and my health and things like that. But I truly do enjoy working out. That's how I got into long course triathlon, is because I loved it. I loved going for those long runs. And so I don't always approach it as a place of punishment, but I do recognize that I've done damage to my body, and now I need to heal that I can get back to a place
where
I can be doing that.
That a girl.
Excellent.
Love
Love
it.
it.
Makes a ton of sense.
Yes.
Love it.
We got to earn it.
Right.
And you will. We'll get back to that place. I promise you, but we got to earn it first.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate the insight and the resources and the help. You guys are awesome.
Thank you so much for calling in, Michelle.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Michelle.
You're doing great.
All right. Thanks. Bye, guys.
Was I too harsh?
You were pretty hard.
You know what? You know what's a challenge?
It's normally me who's that.
It's a little guns blazing.
Well, you know
we came all the way full
what's
circle.
tough is that she's not my client. I can't work with her on a weekly
Well, we
basis.
don't have time.
You have a short, concise
what the
amount of
audience
time.
doesn't.
So I just got to give you the answer, which is not how I would train someone.
It's
Totally.
this is an interesting short conversation. Not to go off on a tangent here, but the audience doesn't know this, but we're coaching some trainers privately, and they get to watch us coach the GLP-1 people. And one of the things that's been a current reoccurrence in the conversation is us talking about how we're very grace based, we're very sympathetic, and we are patient with how we like tell people stuff. In this situation, we only have 10 minutes, and so you don't get to see the real art of our coaching.
The heart of it.
Yeah, if she was seeing me every week, I probably would have got to there over the course of weeks of
Or
being
months.
of sensitive.
Yeah.
Here we don't have the time, so it's like we just got to be blunt and direct, give it to. And some people they're gonna hear that and they're gonna revolt and go the other way and fuck those guys. Some people will accept it and take it, the advice, and then hopefully, but we don't have time. We don't have time to be the great coaches
no, but if here's the thing too for people watching, like she's in a position because of what she's done. If she doesn't take a season of healing and recovery and changing her mentality and allowing her body to adjust, she's not going to move anywhere. And if anything, she'll start to go backwards and backwards and backwards. So there is no other option. And the reason why I'm saying that is sometimes people feel like it's a trade. Oh, I'm going to do this year of recovery and I'm going to sacrifice a year of progress.
Right.
That year of progress doesn't exist right now. It's just not going to happen.
No progress.
Regardless, you have to. You have to now start allowing your body to heal and move in the right direction. Otherwise, not only are you going to not progress, but here's what's going to happen. Even with the hormones, her body's signals are going to get louder and louder and louder, and she's going to be stuck in a really, really bad place.
And to the point that you were kind of making about the hormones, it could actually even be, so it could be a massive bonus for us, or it could be a detriment.
Yep.
It's a bonus because she's got her hormones being monitored and they're optimized. The detriment is that those signals that were already getting really loud get blunted because now you're getting
now you go down further down the wrong
then you
path.
push further down the wrong path and it revolts even more. So as long as she takes heed to the advice and we do this, she absolutely can. And I also want to make the point that I made to her, to the audience that's listening that may be in a similar boat. All the stuff that you've heard about strength training and how amazing and beneficial it is, it only becomes that if
you do it right.
If you do it properly. If you and properly is different for every individual. So it's not as simple as, oh, my girlfriend does this, therefore I do this. It's understanding where you are metabolically, how you are recovering, how many calories and protein you're intaking. And if you're not giving the body what it needs, then it turns into more cardio, just movement, high calorie burning movement, and this loud signal to build muscle. But none of those, you don't get all the other benefits because the body's not recovering, it's not being fed properly. And so therefore that balance between the two is so paramount to success.
And again, to trainers and coaches who are listening, it is very common for people to go from gastric bypass to abusive exercise approaches as well. That is actually quite common because you go from one, dysfunctional relationship, which would maybe with food, to another one with exercise. And what makes it challenging is they will convince themselves and you, but I love it. I love beating myself up. I love doing the whatever. And look, like clockwork, you take someone down the right path and afterwards they look back and they go, oh, this is different. I definitely, this wasn't what I thought.
And even if they do, so even if I have somebody that truly does, because she looks like she's got an athletic background that truly loves to do it, I always tell them, like, yeah, but imagine how much more you would love it when it's giving you the results.
That's
you
right.
know what I'm saying? Like, you think you love it right now. Imagine how much you love it when you actually get the return you're supposed to get on the amount of time and effort you're investing, because that much work, that's a lot of work. Yeah. You can build an amazing physique with that much effort towards the gym, so long as we
directed properly.
That's right. And as long as we're doing everything else with it.
All right. I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. 30% body fat. For men, this is way too high. This is actually a bit high for women as well. So in today's episode, we're talking about how you can go from 30 to 10. What is 10% body fat? This is when you have a visible six-pack. Can you go from 30 to 10%? Yes, it's possible, but not if you guess along the way. So we're going to talk about how you can do that in today's episode.
Now, there's a huge range, right, of like body types.
Yes.
Some people can run a little bit heavier or a little bit higher body.